Hello everyone, I'm Cole from the Kingdom. I'm joined here with DarthShadie and Crimson Wolf.
Hello.
Shady?
Ah, sorry, I guess you didn't hear me. I said hi.
Okay, I'm totally keeping that in. So, we're here to talk about Dragon Age Absolution. I think we all watched it last night. Um, so we're gonna start. What did you guys think about the series overall? Did you like it? Yeah, what did you think?
I loved it.
Yeah, I loved it.
I have mixed feelings. So, I guess you guys would. All right. So, all right. Shady, you have the most notes on the series. Do you want to decide what we should talk about first?
Well, I guess we could say talk about like you say you have mixed feelings, and there are a few details that I would have preferred it to go a different angle. So we can discuss that, and in terms of characters also,
Sure.
characters that we liked.
Sure. Let's go with characters. I've completely forgotten everybody's names right away. Uh, I'll say the first thing I thought was, I guess the first issue I had with it is that some of the characters' voices didn't quite match their design. And I think Miriam was a good example of that. Love the voice actress. I think she's great. But something about the design just it felt weird to me.
How do you mean? Do you feel she should have been like looked more serious, or?
I don't know. I don't
I
know what
can
it is. What do you
I
think,
can
Tom?
I can understand where you're coming from with that because I have that kind of thing with certain shows and everything where the voice doesn't match or the voice doesn't match the picture of the character you're seeing.
Right.
And I think that can be somewhat subjective depending on the character and like how their personality is, and maybe the voice doesn't fit the personality that you're seeing. So I can understand that a little bit. I don't 100% get it with Miriam, but I kind of understand where you're coming from with it. So like sometimes the voice just doesn't match that character you're seeing on screen. Like maybe they should have had a higher voice, deeper voice, something they could have displayed their personality somewhat better on a
Right.
voice actor. But I can understand that.
Yeah, the other big
Yeah.
example I was thinking of is there's a scene where Professor Magister is. Yeah, I forget people's names, so I just assign them. I assign them new names. Professor Magister is yelling at the camera, but the voice actor is. He's talking sternly, but not quite yelling. It doesn't quite match the animation. That's not a big complaint on the quality of the show. It's something I noticed.
When you say Professor Master, you're talking about I think it's Razarin? Razarin?
Razarin.
Yeah,
Razarin.
there you go. There you go.
Razarin, yeah.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite characters. I'm totally simping over him.
Yeah.
I I will say this. So just we're not going to spoil it yet, but I was hoping more from him because like when you first introduced him, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna like this character. Oh, that's who he is. Like,
Yeah, I liked him overall. I liked.
I
Sorry, you go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I like his progression from kind of understandable goals, a decent fellow, to total villain. And they say they say early on with blood magic, it's a very slippery slope, and he falls down it.
And he's definitely influenced by the circulum. I think he's chaotic neutral, and he thinks that he's chaotic good. And because of blood magic and the circulum, he definitely falls down to chaotic evil. But I feel from him that there's definitely, like his relationship with Miriam, there's definitely that a kind of bond there. In his heart, I feel that in his heart, she's his sister. He cares about her, but in his mind, because of the society he was raised in, she's his property. And then there's like some cognitive dissonance going on in his mind. And then the more he falls down the chaotic line towards evil, the more that the more that comes out, the more that stands out. And then when she denies him, he's like, angry, and he's like, no, I'm gonna force this.
Yeah,
See,
that cognitive dissonance is a good way of putting it. I like that.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
initially when I saw him start using blood magic, I got Meryl vibes. I'm like, oh crap, not this again with the blood magic. He immediately went straight down the blood magic, and I was like, okay, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe he'll use it for good. Nope, he just went crazy with it, and I'm like, well, kind of just solidify the fact that blood magic is just in general bad.
Yeah.
So, and not like when you first see him as a Templar Tasia,
Yeah.
I literally like their chemistry and dynamic. I was like, okay, I love these two right now. Kind of hope they don't turn out to be the villains, especially since it's the Venter and everything. I was like, okay, maybe they'll be characters that you actually want to see come back or root for and everything. But as soon as he started using blood magic and call Miriam his property, I was like, okay, nope, you just lost all hope for you.
Yeah, I was hoping for a redemption arc, so it was kind of disappointing that there was no room for a redemption with him.
Yeah, it is a shame, but I guess it's good because sometimes things just work out that way, and not everybody wants to be redeemed. But that said, I still love the Knight Commander. I thought she was great. I hope she comes back in some capacity. I don't think she was a villain.
No, I think she was trying to do the best she could with, given the fact that I guess she's very loyal to the Venter and she wants to clear out like the Venatori and everything. I think she's actually a good character. She's just wrapped up in the fact that she's from Teventer and people just gonna look at her like, oh, you're Teventer, you're automatically the villain.
Yeah, I also like the line that she says regarding the Venatori, which kind of gives us a clue that they're not just remnants of a faction of people following Corypheus. They're like spreading far and wide across Teventer. So it kind of gives us a clue of the dynamic in Teventer right now between regular Vince and Venatori, and she's one of those people who potentially, if she appears in Dragon Age Dreadwolf, could be an ally because she doesn't like the Venatori and she has more noble goals for Teventer.
Teventer is just really screwed right now because they got the Qunari coming in and the Venatori are infecting them from the inside. I'm excited to see what happens with that.
It's going to be like an all-out war then.
Yeah. And so I like that they ramped up the threat of the Venatori because, after Inquisition, we were kind of feeling like, okay, we destroyed their leader. They're pretty much screwed and disorganized. But then we get a little bit of them in Teventer Knights and in the comics. And now here we see that they're just coming back.
And then the Red Templars too.
Yeah, all right. Before we talk about the ending, I want to talk about more.
I might save that for a minute.
Yeah, we're still on characters. We're still on characters.
Let's talk about some of the other characters.
Okay, so right off the bat, I love Quidian.
I'm about to say yes.
She reminds me of me sometimes because I totally be that mage casting spells and running away from the demons and just like screaming my head off.
I'll be honest, it's funny you said that because as soon as Cole told me we were doing a video with you and everything, I was like, you know what, Quidian reminds me of DarthShadie.
Nice. I love that. She's just so funny. She's like the comic relief. Her facial expressions, her tone of voice. I just love everything about her.
Yeah,
she's my favorite character in that show so far. She's hilarious.
I'm glad you brought up her facial animations because it does seem like she's animated differently than the other characters. Like she's more of a cartoon, and I got the sense that was on purpose. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about her. Because I feel like she needed to be balanced out with another comic relief. Because
I think there's twofold for her being like that. Is that one, she's a comic relief, but also because the Qunari that we've met so far have pretty much stern or just kind of not so much uptight, but she was also a vastly different Qunari. Like she's literally just a free spirit, and I really want me to question like, wait, where's her origin? Like where how did she grow up, where did she grow up, and everything like that. So I'm more curious as to where, like, did she grow up with the Kyun, or did she grow up somewhere completely separate away from it to be as free as she is? So
Yeah,
I'm very curious about that.
That's a good point.
Yeah, either she grew up with the Kyun and became Tal Vashath because she's not a Sarabas because she's a mage, or she was born like Vashath, like not part of the Kyun, and so that would be really interesting. Someone on Twitter pointed out to me that she kind of looks a bit like the Kunari female in some of the concept art, except in the concept art she's got daggers. But it gets me thinking,
See,
is she gonna be a companion in the next game?
Don't get my hopes up, because I thought that too. I was like, no, I'm not going to get my hopes up.
Oh, it would be fun though.
Also, if she is, she better be romance with that answer.
I was thinking the exact same thing.
We should talk about. Let's talk about the men of the group.
Okay,
I forget both of their names.
I was going to say that I think Quidion's comic relief is balanced with the comic relief between the flirting
Roland.
between Roland and Lachlan. Because the whole time I was like, okay, come on, guys, just kiss already. Like, I was like, seriously? Especially the scene where Lachlan's like, if we survive this, he's like, yes. And it's like, oh my god. And then finally, like, it felt so satisfying when they finally kissed. I was like, yes, yes.
Oh god, I feel like I'm saying a lot of negative things, but I just completely didn't care about that.
Really, Ronan was amazing. He's like after Quinlan, he's like my favorite character in the show so far.
They were funny, but I just completely didn't care about their romance arc. I don't know what it was, because like I like Bull and Dorian, I like their dynamic in Inquisition, but for some reason I don't like Roland and Lachlan in Absolution. Even though the dynamic is very similar, just banter and then leads to something more. I don't know.
I think I know where you're coming from. I do feel that while the slow burn was like throughout the 6 episodes, I do feel that because they meet at the beginning, the flirt man starts kind of quickly. There wasn't much development before they started flirting, so maybe that could be part of it, because I like when stories, like when romances dive into the backstory and there's more of the more of a glance here and there and stuff before they actually start flirting. But I really like their dynamic personally.
See, I didn't have a problem with the pacing, because in the show you see a lot of time going by from the trip to Venter, and even when they're there, they spend several days like researching and doing things. So I'm like, there's a disbelief that you have to put in there, because there's time passing by that they're not showing. Yeah. So there's that build up of that relationship. So that's why I can like have some disbelief on that, because I'm like, okay, I know time is passing by a lot more than it's actually being shown. So I can feed into the relationship a little bit more because of that.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. But let's talk about the star. Let's talk about Miriam and whatever her girlfriend's name was.
Hera.
I'm sorry. I'm doing. I'm terrible with names.
Do your homework, Cole.
Okay, so Miriam. I mean, like I said, I had the problem with her voice. I guess I couldn't get over the fact that she's just Ashley from Mass Effect.
Maybe that's what it
That might be it. That might be it. But yeah, as a character, she had some really strong moments and some weaker moments. I'm going to start with the weaker moment so that I can come back to the strong moments. The weakest moment, I think, was the scene where she encounters the slave girl and turns her over to the cook. She's like, no one's coming to save us. Yeah, I didn't really buy that. It felt a little cheap to me, because in most situations I can think of, no matter what your past is, there's this instinct to protect children.
Yes and no. See, I see that scene. I was like, there's that hope that you want her to do the right thing, but in a realistic sense, somebody who's come from like, her backstory being enslaved and having like no free will and everything, that's what they kind of program you to believe, that you're not going to be saved and you can't save yourself or anyone else. So it's kind of a mind washing thing. So in realistic sense, that's really what she's going to think, and she's going to pass that on regardless if it's right or wrong. That's what she grew up believing. So even though you want her to have that hero moment, you got to remember she's back in a place that she doesn't want to be. She never thought she was coming back there. So she's now kind of reliving like what she went through and how her mentality was then. So it's kind of like natural for any kind of person like in those situations or victims to go back and recede into that mindset. So her telling them, like, no, this is what it is here, and this is how it's going to be. Yeah. So that's a very realistic thing. So even though I wanted her to save the child and maybe kill the cook or whatever, but that was realistic, and I was like, okay, no, this is kind of dark, and that's what I kind of like about it.
Yeah, that's a good point about the regression, because I was just thinking of it like looking at her character, who she is now. I feel like she wouldn't have any problem just killing the cook, but the regression is a good point.
But also, you got to think she also it may be a twofold thing where she's thinking about her past, and she also is thinking about the mission where she can't kill a cook, another person in this thing, and then take this child because, okay, this is going to backfire on the mission now, and I have to stay here longer to try and solve it. So it's a twofold thing with that. So
because she was, as part of the mission, the plan is she stays there and she doesn't let anyone through. And so that's going through her mind also when she sees the little elf. She's like, oh, what do I do? We did not plan for this possibility. And so she has to think on the fly.
I also will give Miriam this. I think in the show she has the best, I think she does what Bioware does best, and that's character. You see her character like from when she escaped the Venture, when she was with there, and where she is now. So you see her trying to, the fact that she was trying to run away, coming back. She has a love interest and everything. I think she has the best idea of what Bioware can do with characters, and I think that's their strongest points. I think Miriam is a good, blueprint for what they can do in a short amount of time with a character.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to talk about some of the stronger moments now, because I feel like I've been kind of like a dick about the show so far. I feel bad about that. I don't mean it that way. Everything I say, I'm saying it with like, I'm not saying it to be mean. I want Dragon Age to do well.
No criticism is bad. So
you're saying it with appreciation for the show.
Yes. So the stronger character moments, I really liked how she handled seeing her brother's walking body. It felt very realistic to me, and she, lashes out at Rizarin. And then later when she fights him, that was a great fight, by the way, between them in the courtyard. Actually, that whole scene of her just coming into the courtyard and then fighting all the guards, that was a really great moment for her.
The end part of that, when he lifts his hand, even me for a moment, I was like, oh, he's gonna touch her cheek. It was like they're gonna have a heartfelt moment. He's recognizing her, and I was like, oh no, it's
nope.
And I was like, I was almost in tears. I was like, oh.
Yeah, and then she does what she has to do. She refuses to let. I mean, it's really it's
heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking, and what Rizarin did is. It's perverted.
He was obsessed. He's obsessed. He obviously, when you glimpse that past of what did you do, he's not able to let go. He was so in shock. He wasn't able to let go, and he became obsessed with it. It's twisted, but it's like he was holding on to some twisted hope that the three of them could be together again, but freer. But it was all warped.
Mm-hmm.
See, I also question the fact if he was doing it because he actually thought about them as family, or if he literally kept Miriam's brother alive to kind of as payback for Miriam killing his mom. Because I think there was also a thing of like, this is kind of his own revenge. I was trying to figure out, is there any hint of that when he kept the brother alive, and then use that to get Miriam to come back. Like, is that like just you trying to ploy?
What I got from it was from the fact that he hadn't used blood magic when he was forced to use it. Like, his mother wanted him to use blood magic and he wasn't. And so that's why all that happened. And so now, because I think that's the root of where all this started, is he refused to use blood magic for evil, and then he felt guilty for not having used blood magic, and so now he's using blood magic to try to fix that. Bioware has a theme of mages trying to fix their past mistakes and getting obsessive and then doing something terribly wrong from trying to fix it.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I had hopes for him because in the first scene with him, and he's talking to the Spirit of Wisdom, he says he wants to find a way without sacrificing lives. I'm like, okay, great. The Venter Mage who's not going to use blood magic and this item would kind of fix something. Cool. I'm rooting for you. And then next thing when he sees Miriam blood magic, I'm like, all right, well, that went down the toilet extremely fast.
Well, and you see, I've been thinking about his interaction with the Spirit of Wisdom and how he pushed it too far and too fast.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that. I think that does set up his obsession.
Yeah.
It's like he's trying to do it the right way, but he's too obsessed. He's too impatient.
Yeah.
I also just mentioned it. The Spirit of Wisdom seeing by itself is just really cool.
Oh yeah, I agree.
I love seeing it and just talking to a spirit from it. I was like, okay, I need more of this. This is awesome.
Oh, absolutely. We need more of
that. And the fight that ensues after it's really cool. The whole sequence.
Let's talk about. Sorry, do you have something else?
The only thing I was going to say is when the Spirit of Wisdom turned into a pride demon, it kept its conscious for the most part, and it was still talking pretty much as the spirit and everything. So I'm also curious, like, since they sent the spirit back into the Fade, if you're gonna if we may have an interaction with that same spirit later on. Yeah,
it was conscious of its transformation, and you can see it struggling at the beginning when it's still a spirit, and it knows, and then it's
like it's becoming the
awesome.
Hulk.
Yeah. But the fact that it also wanted the artifact was also strange. Like, what are you gonna do with this thing?
Yeah.
I don't think it wanted the artifact so much as... Hey, wait a minute. I just realized something about the plot. Okay. At the end, we find out Rosarin moved the circulum there.
Yeah.
To study it. But doesn't the spirit say it was forged there?
I think he put it there where it was originally forged. I think because what the Divine was holding it, or was in a... Oh, no. I think because it was originally forged there, but... What was her name? Tasia says, like, it has been, like, taken or lost to history and everything, so... I think you could argue the fact that it could have been stolen at some point or moved between magisters or somebody trying to use it. Yeah. But and then bring it back to the original point because he was studying it is probably why he brought it there to talk with the spirit that probably observed it being made, or even maybe because it was never used.
All right, yeah, because the spirit did seem surprised to see it there. Okay, all right. We'll talk about the plot more in a minute. But let's talk about. What do you
guys think about Fairbanks?
I was going to bring that up because the fact that we meet him in Inquisition and he pops up here.
I still don't know if it's the same Fairbanks, but I guess it is.
It is.
It definitely is.
Okay.
And they did him dirty. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm upset. That's like, I get the whole, okay, what happened with Rosarin, okay, but I'm upset about Fairbanks because on the one hand, it makes sense if they were going to bring someone back from someone from Inquisition in that they could kill off or whatever. It makes sense, but also, and I like the twist that was brought in with it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, "Aw, but Fairbanks," and I just wish we had more of him. And I was like, use the circulum and bring him back. I don't know.
Yeah, me too. Anything to say about Fairbanks, Don?
I was actually the first time I saw him, I was like fair. I was like, I'll try to recognize the name. Like, do I know this character? And I had to really think about it for a minute. I was like, oh yeah, he's the dude who helped the Rhodesian refugees. So I was like, all right.
He's the character voiced by Matthew Mercer, but Rosarin is the character who looks like Matthew Mercer.
But with Fairbanks, I found it good for one thing because I'm like, okay, yeah, it definitely ties into like Inquisition and everything. So you kind of is brought over here. So literally, my whole thing of watching it was like, I need something to make it canon. If I might need to make sure of like, okay, this is actually happening within our same world or any kind of playthrough or everything. So I'm like, having Fairbanks Day is kind of like a small type of like acknowledgement of okay, yeah, this is canon or it can be canon. But him, the whole kind of twist with it was kind of very confusing at some point. I was like, if Fairbanks betrayed the Inquisition at first, I was like, okay, no, this is messed up.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
We'll get to the plot later.
Well, let's talk about Hera.
Yeah. Oh, one of the first things I knew that the voice actress was the same as the American Inquisitor.
Oh.
And I really like that she kind of altered the quality of her voice for that character, like the pitch and tone of her voice. So I really liked that. I liked her relationship with Miriam and the backstory, the dynamic that, you know, Miriam felt abandoned by her when she left for the Inquisition and everything. And I definitely need to watch the show again, but I recognized that there were little clues throughout when she was interacting with Tassia and Rosarin to lead up to the big reveal. And another character who is obsessed, wants to do the right thing, but is going about it the wrong way. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I will say this, I hate Hera the most. I do, because even though like you have the Deventer Magister like, you know, manipulating Miriam into coming back, you have Hera doing it a whole lot worse because, you know, Miriam truly like loved her and everything, and then you make her come back to a place she definitely doesn't want to go with the intent to legitimately trade her back into slavery for this item.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's the worst type of things, because it's not, because your enemies you always expect it from, but people that you care about or that you think care about you, you know, literally stab you in the back. That has to be the worst.
There's no excuse.
She does not deserve Miriam's love. Like, I think she does genuinely love Miriam, but
that's a twisted love.
It's a very twisted love, and Miriam deserves someone better.
So, yeah, I will say this. I am hoping if we do see them in Dread Wolf, we can pull pretty much a Lydiana and pretty much kill her ex-lover. Like, so we could kill Hera. Like, okay, cool. We can kill her
now. Let's see.
That twist, though.
Yeah, I liked it. I didn't see it coming. Yeah, I thought it was good.
I think the revelation up to it was great, because it was Miriam just putting the pieces together and like, oh, and she realizing like, oh, she was trying to run with the artifact without, you know, checking if she was okay, the rest of them were okay who came to save you. So just the slow like realization of it was, I love that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the build up to was really good, and the scene where she realizes that was really good too. And now, like, it makes sense, some of the things that Rosarin and Tassia were saying to her, and when she tells Rosarin, she remarks to Rosarin that he hasn't caught on that he's the bad guy, coming from her.
Yeah. Like pot can and con kettle black, like really?
Yeah, pot meet kettle. Yeah.
What's even worse, that they're both Deventer. Like, god damn, can we not get one other good Deventer besides Dory?
Night Commander.
Oh, okay, the Night Commander was good. Okay, yeah.
All right. What else? Okay, the scene where they're finally using the circulum. and they're bringing, what was the brother's name?
Oh,
Neb.
Neb.
Oh, yeah.
And they're bringing him back to life. There's some lore implications there, but were either of you struggling? Like, I was watching it, and I'm like, okay, why is this a bad thing at this point? If it's like damage is already done, why is this a bad thing now? And I finally got it once, you know, his spirit started talking to Miriam, like, don't worry, I'm not, just trust me. And, you know, we see Neb's twisted body, and he's like, no, I'm not going back in there. I finally got it then, but was anyone else struggling until that point?
Not really, because honestly, I go with and this is like an old supernatural quote, like, what's dead should stay dead. Like, it's not natural.
Yeah.
So, and he's been dead for, I believe, years at that point. Like, this isn't right.
No, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, the whole plan of bringing people back to life, I mean, that was never going to work.
No, exactly. What bit of lore are you specifically referring to, Cole?
He's coming back. Where is the spirit coming from? Because it's implying
assume the fade, right?
We assume that. But what happens to people's souls when they die? Because, you know, we see, like, Divine Justinia. It's a spirit that's taken on her form, but it's not her.
Right.
So was that what it was with Neb, or was it something where else was he coming from? Was it,
I think he was probably, if it's not the fate, I don't think it was a spirit, because I think you actually, to get context between, he had give Miriam her, you know, relief and everything, I think it had to be his actual spirit. But where is he coming from? That's a good question, because we don't actually have a solid answer for that. Like, if he's actually in the fade, or I don't know, some other pocket dimension, or whatever heck else that we got in there. But it's hard to say, like, because we don't really explore deep dive into where the actual dead souls of people go to. We assume the fate, but even then we don't naturally see them.
Exactly. And it
sorry, go ahead.
It makes me think of, have you guys read The Calling?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it makes me think of when they're in the Fade, because the demon brings them in the Fade, and they're seeing people from their past. And, like, for example, Nicolas stays there with Julien, but is it really Julien type thing? And was it a spirit, you know, when Marek was talking with, what's her name, was it really her? Was it a spirit? So it kind of makes me think of that. Is it a person's memory inside a spirit? Like, the spirit perceives the memory of the person and embodies that? Or is it really the spirit of that person in that pocket of the realm?
It's kind of like...
It made me think of that.
It's kind of like the short story Down Among the Dead Men, where we get the spirit possessing the guy's corpse, and it so thoroughly believes that it is him. And
so if Audric, as in concept art, is in Dragon Age Dreadwolf, it's the spirit who truly believes he is Audric, but it's not really Audric.
Or is it?
Yeah. Is it?
Now we have this whole scene with Neb. It raises questions. You know, is this confirmation that the soul is immortal?
Well, I guess we have to figure out, one, what happens to the soul once it goes, if it is to the fate, what happens when it goes there? Does it, you know, keep its consciousness? Does it become something else? We have to first figure out, like, okay, what happens to the soul when it goes there? Mm-hmm. Or does it go to a place beyond the fate?
And then also, what happens to the soul when it goes there? And then what happened to Corypheus when he was poofed back into the Fade? What happened to whoever was left in the Fade to fight Nightmare? You know,
it's a whole can of worms.
What happens to them? Many cans.
All right, we should talk.
Fade and the spirits are a whole can of worms.
Yeah, we should talk more about the plot of the show.
Yeah, we're digressing here.
I guess one thing I wanted to bring up was I like that we finally have confirmation to a question I've had for a long time, and that's can animal blood, specifically dragons, be used for blood magic?
The answer obviously.
You got that right away.
It's finally been confirmed, and I'm glad about that. And also that dragons, I haven't seen. What was the Cassandra movie?
Dawn of the Seeker.
Dawn of the Seeker.
Haven't seen that yet. Were dragons controlled with blood magic in that, or was that just a Vexus?
So it was a Vexus, but she was being controlled by blood magic. So
Okay, well,
guess pseudo blood magic.
yeah. All right, so now we have confirmation that dragons can be controlled.
Well, no, hold
Yeah.
on. So
Directly.
technically, a Vexus had to drink the first dragon's blood to actually control them. So I guess technically, yes, blood magic in general.
Okay. But a Vexus had the special power to communicate with animals.
Yeah,
So-
she was a very unique mage for that.
Right. But now we have. All right, so I'm just glad we have confirmation that dragons can be controlled with enough blood by a normal blood mage.
Okay,
A huge amount.
So if dragons can be controlled, are the archdemons controlled?
Ooh. That's
That's not a can of worms.
that's a good question. I like that.
Then if they are controlled, by whom?
Well, okay, so if we go into that theory, because you can kind of use Corypheus as a kind of a testing point with that, because he controlled kind of a fake archdemon.
Exactly.
You could assume that someone more powerful than Corypheus can control, for instance, the old gods or the archdemons. So, because oh no, I'm never thinking like I had a theory about this a while back too.
And then what and who are the old gods? Because with the recent trailer and with lots of theories, they could be linked to the Evanurus, but
Okay,
are they them or are they their priests?
Yeah.
Controlled
Okay, see, that was my theory. That theory, the Evanurus and the old gods were connected, like between two souls. But
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
my theory too.
Okay, Absolution.
We're going off on course, like, come back here.
It's
You're
very
going a little too far off the road.
it's very easy to go off the road with Dragon
Yeah.
Age.
Oh, for sure.
there's so many implications with a few scenes in it.
I liked when
Okay,
I liked when the dragon left.
Okay, yeah.
I thought that was just a really nice scene. Showing
That was
Quick.
really cute with Quidian, especially with the theory of Kunari having dragon
yeah.
blood or whatever.
That
So
was the second
she kind
thing.
of frees it. She frees the dragon, and it kind of like almost acknowledges her, like, yeah, we're best buddies now.
right.
So I was about to say that's two things with the dragon. Like, okay, does that actually confirm Kunaris have dragon blood? And two, I wanted to figure out. Okay, she says that the dragon was there for thousands of years. I'm like, how old is this dragon? It's like one of the great dragons from the past, or like how old is this dragon? But
Well,
different thing.
didn't we find out
Definitely
in
a high dragon.
Yeah, didn't we find out in the Silent Grove that they can enter like or is that just great dragons that can enter hibernation?
So I'm pretty sure it's just the great dragons that can do it, because if we go back to the comics, like Yavanna was trying to she was trying to wake them. So I'm not sure if they're hibernating or someone put them to sleep. So I'm not sure, because she was trying to wake them up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's why I was
she
trying to figure out
Well,
if this actually was just a regular high dragon or not.
Well, with the dragon, it seemed like it was almost turned to stone before it woke up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like
I'm wondering.
petrified.
Yeah, I was wondering if maybe. It was magically preserved for 1,000 years.
That might be the difference, because I think the dragons Yavanna was looking at were encased in crystal somehow. So
Right.
or crystal-like structure. So.
And then there was the whole thing about the when Quintia the Canary destroyed the throne or the pedestal or whatever, and then they said, okay, we can't get the dragon back under control without that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she basically freed it from its enslavement.
Right.
So it must have recognized that, and probably must have, because dragons, I don't know if they're celestial, they're kind of like celestial beings. So maybe it recognized her intent through her magic.
Well, she even says, like, remember, they're not gods. They're pretty much just creatures, and they just want to live. So it kind of can recognize the fact that someone helped me. So all right.
Yeah. So,
I was like, okay, we're cool.
Yeah, I'm really glad they did that because, until this point, we get the idea that dragons are just raw, uncontained power, but this shows us no, they're just animals.
Also, anybody else get the one hint of like, can we ride a dragon like like they did?
Yeah.
I'm like, can we ride a dragon?
Except Razar wasn't on the dragon. It was like
carried,
being
like
carried.
his palm.
in his paw. In his paw, but that was kind of cool.
I don't care. Like if you let me do that in the game, I'm like, okay, I'm fine. I don't need the griffins. That's enough.
No, exactly. The other thing. Did you guys notice like the hoverboards?
I like that. That was so cool.
I was like, I call them the hoverboards. I was like,
I found that so interesting. Like, okay, is this good for magic actually used to levitate and everything? Because I'm like, this is dope. I really would love.
oh yeah.
Yeah, I really. That's just
my reaction was neat hoverboards.
Okay.
Last thing about the dragons is I liked when Roland the dwarf? Was Roland the dwarf?
Rodan was the early. Was our legion.
Okay, well, the other guy. I like when the dwarf said, "I'm sorry, I'm terrible with names." When Lachlan says, that thing's just going to go terrorize the countryside, right?
Yeah.
I like that because it made me feel a little bit less bad about killing the dragons in Inquisition. Because I think some of them, they were too close to settlements, and so we had to kill them. But others...
Okay, arguably, people made settlements too close to a dragon's lair. So, who's really at fault?
Yeah. So, but I mean, some, like the one in the hinterlands and Empre du Lion, they were too close to civilization. We had to get rid of them. But then the one in the hissing wastes, she wasn't bothering anybody.
Yeah, no, that one was completely isolated. No one was going there.
Yeah. So, all right.
Yeah.
Anything else about the plot you guys want to talk about?
Plot-wise, go ahead.
No, well, I was just gonna make an observation that I made in regards to the title logo, because for the timeline of where the plot takes place, and so in the title you have a bit of green and you have a bit of purple, and then you have characters from Inquisition, and so obviously with Fairbanks and a quick cameo from Cassandra and stuff, and the mention of the Inquisition. You have with the green, it represents a lead from Inquisition to Absolution, and then the purple represents leading to Dreadwolf. So I'm wondering what elements, if any, will carry over to The Missing, the comic that's coming out next month leading to Dreadwolf, and what elements, characters, or plot lines from Absolution will lead into Dreadwolf. That's one timeline observation. The other timeline observation is that a certain mad woman gets a certain red lyrium idol carved out of her from the Carta into Winter Nights. I'm assuming Absolution takes place after that.
So with some of that, you can kind of assume from with the new comic coming out that this pretty much leads directly into that. Maybe most likely with what is the artifact called?
The Circulum.
The Circulum. So the fact that we pretty much know it's going to Kirkwall, so you're going to pretty much meet Varric, and that's pretty much what the comic may kind of circle around. So you most likely will see a lot of these characters from there kind of enter that into the comic, and from there you can kind of assume, okay, especially with the trailers we got for Dreadwolf so far, and how the fact that one, the idol pretty much was in the first trailer we ever got, and that connects initially first to Kirkwall and everything. So you assume that everything's going to revolve pretty much either one around. It can be assumed that the Circulum may actually have a good plot thread in Dreadwolf, because we know Varric's going to be in there. The fact that this show leads into the comic, which the comic could easily lead into the next game. You can kind of thread it that way.
And it's possible that Mary the Bad is in the Deep Roads, and that maybe Saphira, since she was part of the Inquisition, maybe she's the missing that Varric and Lace go after to try to, I don't know, get the Circulum.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think the Circulum is just going to end up being destroyed at the conclusion of the series, and that's it.
Question though, what do you guys think would happen if Solas got his hands on the Circulum?
Who would he bring back?
I just want to bring back Mythal in her original form, but I'm not sure if that's needed.
Yeah. Also, he might just somehow use it for raw power, not even use it for what it was designed for.
Maybe. It also begs the question because we know it's supposedly used to bring back the dead and everything. You can also, I would assume it could also be used in a different manner. Like for instance, you can probably absorb. It'll be funny if you could use it to absorb souls or anything. For instance, if you freeze Evanurus and he can absorb them into the circle.
Yeah,
you'd be like, okay, now I have you trapped in this.
That's a good idea.
Oh, yeah, that could work. Or I had plans. So it's then close up the Circulum.
Yeah.
Did you guys? Sorry, go ahead.
But also, if the Circulum kind of warps someone's perceptions and corrupts them even more, like we don't need Solas the Dread Wolf to be more like come on.
Did you guys catch who made the Circulum?
I tried to go back and I saw the name. I was like, okay, I need to deep dive the name a little bit more before I ever speak on it.
Shady?
I have to watch it again. I didn't catch that. I have to.
They say the name.
Double check.
They just say the name once. Who made it? It was Amelia Pavis.
Pavis.
So, an ancestor of Dorians.
An ancestor of Dorians. Okay, I'm getting my notes. Okay, hang on.
I thought that was a neat inclusion, but they never said anything else on it. So
they didn't.
I'm about to say, was there supposed to be more from that? Because I'm like, all right.
Yeah, no, it was just a throwaway line, but I like it because I feel like it might matter later.
I'm about to say again, if you connect it, if you want to make a crazy outline of theories and where this could go, you could bring maybe Dorian would know more about the Circulum, and we could bring it to him once we acquire it, and yada yada.
What does he know about it? Has he researched it? And I need to reread parts of Tevinter Nights for timeline reasons. But I'm wondering the story with Dorian in it. Does he mention Razarin? Is Razarin mentioned in Tevinter Nights?
I don't think so.
Because he talks about, when he talks to the Lord of Fortune in Tevinter Nights, he mentions Mayveris. He mentions a few Magisters who are part of the Venatori. He mentions a few who are helping him and Mayveris to kind of reform the Magisterium. And so I need to double check as Razarin in Tevinter Nights.
That would be interesting. I have to reread that then.
All right.
I also wonder if the Circulum would need Pavis blood to actually use it in a different way. Because again, if it's from a Magister, blood magic might be involved. So you may
blood magic.
So you may need his blood.
Yeah.
Would Dorian be willing?
Oh, I doubt it.
No, I don't think he would. But it's also, that's assuming somebody doesn't take it him unwillingly from him. So I'm just. There's a lot of things that could happen. If the Circulum is in any way involved in any future plot threads, it's just something that may come up.
Yeah.
And the way things are set up with Tevinter Nights and everything, I believe that Dorian will be in Dragon Age Dreadwolf. So if the Circulum, or if there's a season 2, Dorian might have a cameo.
So real quick, at the end of Inquisition, I know Dorian was going back to Tevinter because his father died. Was his father killed?
Yes.
Yes.
So real quick, I'm assuming if this is a Pabis like artifact and everything, his father might have had it. I'm wondering if somebody killed his father for it.
Oh,
And
that's
another plot thread.
I'm writing this down.
That's a good idea.
Oh crap! Now I have to think a lot to this show.
So, Mad Mary.
All right.
I shouted so loud. My husband was his office is like not far from mine, and he was in a meeting for work, and I shouted so loud, like, no! I was like, what? A big WTF moment. I was like, oh, whoops.
Yeah. So there's a lot to go through with this.
A lot to unpack.
So, I mean, Meredith is one of my favorite villains from Dragon Age. I think she was great, and I thought she had a fitting ending. And now they're bringing her back, and I'm undecided. I'm just really hoping that they do this well.
I'm sorry, Hawk. No one you kill stays dead.
Oh my god, you're right.
So now we know where all the Red Templars went after Corypheus was defeated.
Right.
We know from Tevinter Knights, we know where the Venatori went, but it's like a bunch of us were wondering, where did the Red Templars join the Venatori? Like, where were they?
Right, because they were only with Corypheus because he was supplying them with he was feeding their addiction.
Yeah,
exactly.
And, now we gotta wonder. It's my theory that Meredith was completely silent until the Carta used that potion on the statue to get the idol in Tevinter Knights. That's when Meredith, quote, woke up.
Became conscious?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it petrified her, and she she was literally petrified inside. She became a Red Lyrium statue. They carved it out of her, and then it awoke her.
Right. So that's my theory. It's also possible that she was just always in a crystal underground. Yeah.
Did they move? I forget. Did the Carta move her? Or, like, she was moved before the Carta found her? Like, she was moved away from the courtyard? Or...
No,
I think she was vision.
Yeah, nobody touched it. Well,
I don't know if I went around it for a long time.
There's conflicting information.
Yeah, when was she moved?
I don't think she was moved at all, unless it was after the Carta took the idol.
Possibly.
Because I remember, like, what you hear about it from Varric and everything. It's just in the courtyard. Nobody goes around it. Everybody stays, like 10 feet away from it or anything.
Yeah.
And there's some contradicting things, because I know some people say it was moved, or you see it. Granted, that's more of an Easter egg in, like, the Black Emporium and everything. But it's weird, because I think there are things that say it has been moved.
Yeah.
Potentially. And I think because Red Lyrium is a song, and it sings the song of the taint, she, quote unquote, sang to the Red Templars for them to come to her.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that.
She wants a war, apparently.
Oh yeah. So this is why the Circulum is dangerous for Tevinter, because she wants a war against mages. Where is there a concentration of mages? Tevinter. And then you got Solus doing whatever he's doing. You got Mary the Mad coming in with a bunch of Red Templars. We're in Tevinter in Dreadwolf. And then, meanwhile, in Antiva, Kunari invade. And I've always speculated that the plot line is going to have us choose help here or help there. Mm-hmm. And however time it takes to help here, you lose opportunity and time to help there, and you might not be able to help them at all.
Right.
Instead of that, you know what I hope they just do? Just kind of pull off Dragon Age and Dragon Age 2, where one game focuses on this, the next game will focus on the second half of the bottom of the continent. It's like split it up, give you two protagonists to deal with both of these in two different games. Because like that's a lot of things going on.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
There's no way to resolve all of that in one at all. Unless you give the expansion pack or something, but good lord.
Is there anything else we want to talk about in regards to the overall plot? Because I want to start talking about. I want to at least touch on the quality of the animation and like the action scenes and stuff like that.
As far as the plot goes, I think it was pretty much very straightforward. It had a good twist and everything. So, if you actually go into, I guess, if you expect like a Dragon Age story and everything, you kind of get that because what BioWare again focuses mostly on character development and all that. So I think the characters are great and the story is pretty simple. It's pretty much a simple heist for the most part, with a good backstab and twist thrown in. So I think the story and everything is pretty good for, especially in 6 episodes.
You know,
I like the twists. I'm upset about Fairbanks. I'm still grieving Rosarin because I always fall for the problematic mages. That's a problem in and of itself. But it was well made. The twists were well made. The characters I feel were well developed, and it is, there were short episodes, but I feel it was at the same time I feel it was complete, but with the cliffhanger and with some of the other things, I feel like it feels incomplete also. We need another season.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think the total runtime across 6 episodes is somewhere around 2.5 hours. Once I got to like episode 4, I was like, they should have just made this a movie, because they released all the episodes at once anyway.
Yeah.
So it may as well have been a movie.
Yeah.
I think, I guess with that, if you see it as a movie, I think there's a difference of idea of like disbelief with it, because I think with movies you kind of see everything going all at once. Like you can see like some days go by, but with shows, I guess you can say like, okay, this ends. You can, I don't know, there's somewhat different between movies and TV shows for the most part, because for a show, once the episode ends, you can kind of assume, okay, maybe a day has ended or like several days have ended between that.
But we didn't even do that in this series though. So
because you could just binge it and they just put it all at once. But a movie would have been good, but at the same time, again, 6 episodes, 2 hours, 2.5 hours they did very good with what they had with the time they had.
It was well made.
So I want to talk a little bit about the action scenes. I liked that the warriors and rogues didn't do any special magic like they do in the gameplay, like rogues turning invisible or warriors splitting the ground open. I'm glad they didn't do any of that. They did take a few liberties with physics, but that's always, it's a cartoon.
Yes.
It's a cartoon in the fantasy world. I don't have a problem with that.
I noticed a few Matrix style fight moves.
There was one incident in the first episode that made me laugh out loud with how ridiculous it was, though. That was when the crime guy tries to shoot a crossbow bolt at Miriam. She deflects it with her dagger, and it flies back and goes into his skull. That made me laugh out loud.
I thought it cut his ear, because I don't know it didn't kill him.
I thought it went into his skull.
No, it literally I think it cut the side of his face or ear, because he was still alive.
Either way, being able to just flick it back at him with the dagger as it's coming at you, like, it would be impressive if she threw it at him and
like caught it and threw it back.
Yeah, that would be impressive, but deflecting it off the dagger and sending it straight back. That was a little too far for me.
I can again, with physics in most shows, I would, again, because I'm a huge like physics nerd and everything. So my initial thing is like, okay, gravity might be less there, it might be this there.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm just like, I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt and just again enjoy the show for what it is and just go with
Yeah.
it. Because if I start rationalizing it, I'm never gonna enjoy it.
During her fight with Neb, it it felt like it was well placed, the slow motion, like it was really well made. That whole fight sequence was amazing. But there was a fight before that where she kind of just jumps a little bit higher than might be possible and kind of floats above very far, and I was thinking Matrix the whole time.
And again, this is why I say that maybe the gravity's less on that world. I don't know. But in terms of like the animation and everything, I do appreciate the fact like when you saw like the warriors and rogues fighting, or you saw anybody fighting, you understood like where they were located, like just a general idea of just area. Like you know where they were located. You can actually follow the fights. Like they weren't just flashes or blur motions. You can actually follow what they were doing.
Right.
And I appreciate that in any animation because that shows like that's great detail and that shows you want these characters to move like actual people do. Like,
exactly.
If you're parrying, if you're dodging and everything, it was great. Especially like for instance the fight with Roland, the Teventer and oh my god, what's the dwarf name right now?
Lachlan?
And Lachlan, like between the fight between those three, that's good because that's a 2-on-1 fight with three people encompassing and moving. And for instance, Rodan drops his sword, the dwarf picks it up, gives it to him. Like that is just good animation and direction to like I know like where everything is located and how everything is flowing.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Something else that I noticed about that particular fight is the camera angle changes. Sometimes it's as though we are in Roland's point of view, and sometimes we are in Lachlan's point of view, sometimes we are in Tassia's point of view, and then so sometimes we don't necessarily know or something. So when Roland just comes and was the same thing with other fights as well, when Roland comes and helps Lachlan and stuff, so the camera switches points of view, but at the same time you don't feel like you're head jumping or anything like that.
Right.
It flows nicely. The
flows.
Other fight that does that well is when Tassia and her team are fighting the demon.
Yeah.
I found that the camera angles followed them well.
Yeah.
There too.
I think the fight choreography and direction was very good overall. Again, they took some liberties with physics, but the flow of the fights was, I think, excellent. Because characters coming in and saving other characters, that never felt like it came out of nowhere. Because
you knew where they were located.
You knew where everybody was.
Yeah, which is like in D&D, you got to know where everybody is, and that I like that.
Yeah, and I think it's really impressive that they managed to do that too. So yeah, overall, coming out of this discussion, I'm feeling a little bit better about it than I did at the beginning. I know you both loved it. I still have some qualms about it, but all in all, I think it's a good show, and I think it's a welcome addition to the Dragon Age canon.
I will say, I think another reason I love it is because we've been dry for Dragon Age content for a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm like, this is like a good little fix right now. Like, okay, good.
Yeah, and the trailer that I think the trailer that came out on Dragon Age Day it felt like a Dragon Age Keep narration, so it was a little underwhelming. So having this show to watch was really nice. I also appreciate how in the first episode, Fairbanks is all, let me explain some lore in ways that the true fans can't explain, because I'm explaining it in a more concise manner that's impossible for the fans. For all you new people who don't know anything about Dragon Age, and it was really well made because of the voiceover as they're traveling and everything, and for someone who doesn't know the lore, doesn't know the game, It was really well made. It's very immersive, and I'm hoping that it's going to bring viewers to the games.
Me too. One more thing I forgot to mention, real fast. I loved the design of the city.
Oh yeah,
Having the giant
Nessum?
Andraste in the cliff, and then the architecture and decor of the city, all loved it.
Yeah, it was really nice.
I would say I would like to see more, but I know we're about to get more in Dread Wolf.
Yeah.
So, and also I was also it wouldn't kind of clash with whatever details they have in the show in the game. So I'm like, I do like what we did get, because that was actually just seeing like the cliffside by itself was amazing.
Mm-hmm. And I like the kind of, there's a contrast between the giant temple that they're in. You know, it's all kind of, it's stone and it's got a lot of sharp angles, you know, like we've seen in other Tevinter architecture. But then in the residential areas, it's a lot like prettier. And I like that contrast, because I think that's going to set a good tone, I guess, for Tevinter, and just how the society is.
Yeah, I'm assuming we'll see a mix of like pretty much again like those sharp edges and everything, and then a lot more kind of like I guess a cleaner construction detail, depends on what part of Tevinter you're going into. So
yeah, because from the 2020 trailer, we saw Minrathous with the glowing magical lights at night, and so Minrathous has one look and feel. Nessum has another look and feel, and Nessum is situated like on the edge of Tevinter, Navarra, and the Anderfels. So it's got a completely different terrain, and so I'm hoping, because Tevinter is so large, the different places we go in Tevinter are going to look vastly different, and hopefully the caves are going to be different from each other too. You know, it's not going to look like, oh look, it's the same thing, just this is mirrored, this is on the other side.
Mm-hmm. All right, so any closing thoughts?
I love Quindon.
More of Quidian.
Yeah,
I'm gonna need to watch the show again. I'm adding more to my notes and everything. I'm gonna be making videos about it for sure. You know, just kind of like theories, review type thing, thoughts, but it's a good show. I want more of it. I love the characters, and it does feel like some nice Dragon Age content to fill the gap. But I want my skill trees. I want my companions and romance options. I want to start planning out my next character.
All right. Well, I think that's gonna do it then. Thank you both for being here and talking about it. And
Thank you, Cole, for having us.
And
thank you.
Thank all of you for watching. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.